My name is Sasha Perugini, for those who don't know me, and I have the pleasure and honor of being the director here at Syracuse University. I want to start by thanking a few people who have been working behind the scenes to make this 2 days possible. First and foremost, I would really and warmly thank Michelle Ternopolsky, my closest collaborator, who's been working very hard behind the scenes for more than 2 years now. She's been with us from the very beginning and has done an amazing job. So Michelle, thank you very much. Also, and also a lot of thanks to Camille Kreitz, who's our Assistant Director for Academics. She's also worked hard behind the scenes, and she will be presenting today. So I'm looking forward to listen to her. And a lot of thanks to Melanie Honor, who's not here, but she was at the front desk doing registration. She's a new acquisition of Syracuse University in the Student Life Office. And again, she's been behind the scenes, but doing a great job. So thank you to all, and particularly to Patrick Burke, with whom I've started this partnership, and I want to say professional friendship, more than 2 years ago when we started venting and talking about our frustration in the field. It all started with the usual, the contract that we use is not adequate. There are a lot of legislative gaps in this current scenario. It's difficult, it's challenging, and so on and so forth. So that's what we are here today to talk about. I would like to just give a general overview of the topic, and allow me to use very generalistic and to generalize related topic very much, to be superficial in a way, but just bear with me, because I want to start by talking about higher education in general before I get into the core of the conference, which is, human capital and the professional identity roles in international education and study abroad programs. First of all, I want to quickly talk about the management of knowledge these days. When we talk about universities and colleges and schools, we talk about structures that package knowledge, that define what knowledge is, that line the elements that define all that, the universe of knowledge, and define what the containers are. And I wanna say that we have been undergoing a major revolution in the world of knowledge. Such an important revolution that I'll use the metaphor of the Copernican Revolution. I think we are undergoing a Copernican revolution, and the perspective of what are the main satellites in this universe have changed drastically and really significantly. When I started being educated, what knowledge was and how it was delivered, it was very clear. To make just a few examples, the hierarchy in class was very clear. The teacher had the power, and there was this sense of the teacher being the container of the knowledge and pouring information into the student's brain or life, or toward the students. The pedagogy was pretty much kind of standardized, and again, allow me to talk in very general terms. The cohort of students, at least here in Italy, not so much in the US, but at least here in Italy, the cohort of students was very homogeneous. Students were pretty much same race, same religious background, same social background. Everything was in a way more defined. Education was perceived as a mission. The business side of it was less evident. It was important to read. It was important to memorize data. There was a chronological, consequential, linear approach to teaching, to approach knowledge, to analyze data and deliver data and knowledge. And there were certain standards that defined, allow me to use brutal terms, but that defined what good and bad was. There were certain things that were good, certain things that were bad. For instance, The experience in class, through lecturing, at the home campus was good. Field trips, not so good. Not necessarily rigorous, not necessarily an academic experience. There was this, what we here sometimes have perceived as a bias or as a negative judgment. And study abroad in particular was perceived as a kind of less important, I would say yes, secondary educational experience. However, I believe, as I said, we're undergoing a major revolution, what I call, I will use this metaphor of the Copernican Revolution. And I hate to stay behind the microphone, I really want to move, but anyway. The planets, the main planets, and to continue with this metaphor, in this universe of knowledge have been moved, shifted, and the perspective have been shifted tremendously and even shockingly. And while we all see this, and it's clear and it's evident, I think the complexity of this particular moment is into trying to continue talking about knowledge and the roles in the world of knowledge and in higher education with the parameters that are completely shifted. In fact, if we continue with the metaphor of the Copernican Revolution, what happened at the time is, of course, the role of the human being was put to the side. And that's something that, at least at the time, was not very pleasing to the human being in the philosophical kind of perception of the human being. So there's a sense of certain roles, certain planets being kind of put to the side. And let me go into more details here, just to talk about more examples and compare more the then and now, the before and now. I talked about the hierarchy in class. It was clear. It was top down. The professor was clearly in charge of the class. When I was in high school and even university, there are a lot of things and attitudes that were absolutely not possible and not even questionable in terms of education. Those were our standards. The students, as I said, the students' cohort was very homogeneous, but it's no longer this way. If we think about US universities, the amount of international students, and even in study abroad, the amount of international students now enrolling into classes is growing, semester after semester, and that's impacting the pedagogy, the didactic, the interpretation of, teaching, and what good teaching is, and what being educated means. Education, yes, it's a mission, but we every day, all of us, even those who are not in administration, we deal with the fact that there's the business part of it, and how much does it cost? When my colleagues come to me with any proposal, as wonderful it may be, first question I ask, how much does it cost? And does it bring benefits to the students? Yes, it does, but my question is, how much does it cost? And as much as I may not like it, I have to ask that question. In terms of hierarchy and power, again, I've read and heard so many of us often talk about this student entitlement. We heard it over and over and over. It's a culture in which students feel entitled. We have all heard the famous sentence, I have paid for this, therefore, whatever the expectation is. So this is the new approach in terms of politics and power in class. Research and reading. In the pre-Copernican world, research and reading were the pillars of knowledge, but these days, there are numerous studies that prove that everything that is published every day, it's no longer possible to read it. It's no longer possible to be updated. So much of it, so specialized, so specific. It's really not a problem of finding information. The problem is filtering the information. When I was preparing my PhD dissertation, I used to go through paper archives to find information. There was no Google, there were no PCs, and it was still, and so we really, the main effort was about finding that information. These days, it's really about protecting ourselves from information. It's too much. And these days you can pretty much say anything and prove it through a quote that it's printed and published somewhere from an important, academic journal or a rigorous, academic publisher, and you can say really anything and support it with quotes. So this has changed that. So what that brings is that, of course, the way we interpret the roles in this world, our identities and our professional identities have changed heavily, and not just in study abroad program. I know last year we talked a lot about the role of adjunct professors, the word adjunct meaning lateral, meaning not important. We talked about that. But these days, the same problem applies to U.S. universities as well, because the majority of teachers in U.S. universities these days are adjuncts. And the track tenure system doesn't work anymore. It's no longer a path that the new scholars may keep in mind as an option. It's becoming less and less of an option. It's becoming less and less the way to go as it was in the past. So before I continue, I want you to take the time to read this quote about knowledge. I guess, yes. Okay. So, you may agree or not agree with this or with me, but again, and I'm using very, very general approach to all this very, very complex matter, but the point is, I am definitely not the smartest and most informed person in this room, and I am not lecturing in a way that, I'm providing, some sort of knowledge that no one here has. No, the truth is that by being all together here, and that's the importance of the conferences like this, by being all together here, we create the important, in my opinion, knowledgeable result of the education mission, or in this case, the academic debate. So to continue with this metaphor, the new sun, or if not the sun, certainly a very important planet in this new setup, it's the network of information, the exchange of information. And again, all the roles and all the orders have shifted, the structures have been shattered, and the professional identities have become more confused and blurred. So we all heard it over and over and over, all of us. It's a liquid reality. We're almost probably tired of having heard that, It's a complex world, it's a complex reality, it all goes very fast. And the knowledge system is undergoing an identity crisis. I kind of, tried to summarize here what I've been saying so far. And if we agree that professional identities in this realm, in this universe, are blurred in general, not just in study abroad program, but in general, what happens specifically in study abroad? What happens in the international education, if that's the background, if that's the scenario? I think that this question mark is a very good thing for us in the field. I think it's a very, very good moment for us to be in this field, because in my opinion, it is a good moment to remap our identities and rethink the geography of this field. I entitled this paper, this talk, "Open to Undefined Meaning, Remapping Our Identity." And before I move to say why I think it's a good moment for us, the other question that is necessary to address is, are the quality and standards of education, have they been lowered, with all this disruption? When I first asked myself that question, the easy question that came out was yes, they're lowered. In fact, I don't believe they are. I don't believe in at all. If I were to compare what we do, or even what I do as a teacher, to what I did as a PhD student or as a university student here in Italy, or as a study abroad program student myself, probably if I used those standards, yes, if my old professor would have to compare what we do here, probably they would have kind of looked down on some of this. But the thing is that the world, the knowledge system, the interpretation of knowledge has become so complex and fast, that those standards don't apply anymore. And I don't think we can have an easy answer to this. And in fact, I think the world has become so complex that I don't think that the standards have been lowered. They've just changed. In fact, when I was younger, if you didn't know Latin, you were clearly uneducated. But these days, yeah, I had to study Latin. It was mandatory. But these days, no one even mentions Latin anymore, unless you probably study philology or glottologia. But if you don't know how to work well with a PowerPoint software or PowerPoint system or an Excel spreadsheet, are you educated? I don't know. Is this a parameter? I don't want to answer, but again, this is the important question to keep in mind, and I think we shouldn't fall into the trap of responding to that easily. So, to go back to us, I think now it's a good moment, because if we look at some elements or some parameters that characterize what study abroad is about, the teaching here, it's about we use more non-linear, non-chronological approach to teaching, more transversal here in study abroad program that characterizes our educational experience. We tend to talk way more about cross-cultural issues. We tend to compare. We encourage students to face otherness and diversity. It's a lot about interdisciplinarity. It's about filtering information. And there is a portion of it that it's entertaining, because when students go on field trips, there is the entertaining part. But that doesn't mean, in my opinion, that the academic experience is less important, less rigorous, or doesn't bring an ultimate important educational goal and doesn't form the student as a human being. The physical part of the learning and teaching here while study abroad here is way more important, because if a student goes to the Uffizi to observe a Botticelli painting that it's listed in the syllabus, approved by the home campus, still what happens between this room and the walk to the Uffizi will be an educational experience for the students, an important educational experience, because the food will be different, the way that they purchase water will be different, the finding a toilet will be difficult, and therefore will create a challenge for the students. The language will be different, and the way students will be looked at, not just necessarily women, will be different. And that's part of the educational experience that happens here. So, I wanted to use this as kind of a background for our conversation these 2 days, today and tomorrow. And I encourage to remind ourselves that we are those who are used to watching things from the other perspective. And that's what makes, in my opinion, our professional strength. And when we stay open to undefined meaning, and when we remap our professional identity, because I'm positive it will happen, I don't know when, but I'm sure it will happen, regardless of the Job Act or the new legislation or whatever happens with the unions, the sindacati here in Italy and anywhere in the world, and even unions in the States are very active these days. Regardless of all of this, that I think we have an advantage point. We've been so used to looking at things from the other perspective. That's a good time for us to to keep this in mind. And in fact, when professors find themselves now in difficulty because they're facing students they're completely unused to, such as students who don't know English very well, students who are not used to writing papers. We in Italy don't have the writing tradition when it comes to exam. It's all oral, verbal. So when professors face students who don't understand their teaching methods, they have to kind of start re-questioning everything. But it's what we do every semester, because we kind of face day by day the same challenges. And so I think this conference is a good opportunity to address all these topics, which are very, very delicate and have a lot of political implications, but in an open way, as a dialogue, a collaborative dialogue where we try to really redefine our identities and address the anxiety that this has created on numerous fronts, and propose. This is a good time to propose, and also keeping in mind what we do with no sense of kind of the old this is good, this is bad, this is rigorous, this is not, this is scientific, this is not, this is on tenure track, and this is not, this is published, and so on and so forth. So I hope all these topics will come up during the conference today. We have numerous speakers from numerous parts of Italy, numerous programs. Thank you all for coming and for presenting your papers. I'm particularly pleased to have colleagues from London. I'm looking forward to listening to them, and we'll be talking from anything that goes from legal matters to curriculum development. I really, really encourage, we tried to emphasize when preparing this, the sticking to the 20 minutes. I really want to encourage the discussion and debate part at the end of each speech. So thank you very much for coming today and tomorrow, and for being here to be the classroom or the network that was written in that original quote. Thank you.